Hi, this is a brainstorm of an ideal classroom climate I would like to achieve and how I would like to get there. So, when considering a classroom climate that is successful and caring, I must include all four aspects of my classroom climate in my planning process. That is, intellectual, social, emotional, and physical aspects of a classroom climate. To touch the intellectual climate, I am considering sources from all different experiences in my educational background. Specifically, I am focusing on a theory I found in my classroom management text, which is the equation to equal motivation, promoting motivation for students. The equation states expectation plus value plus climate equals motivation. Now, what this is saying is when students are aware of their expectations and are confident and encouraged to succeed and achieve, they will. If they're positive of their expectations and are comfortable basically making mistakes and trying again or getting it right the first time, doesn't matter as long as they can expect that they will eventually succeed, as well as the value. So intrinsic, extrinsic motivators, whatever it is, internal or external, that students realize and are able to see the value in why they are doing what they are doing, plus climate, which ironically happens to be climate, is about the environment that the students are in. So are they being supported? Are they being supported by their peers, by their teachers? Is it a climate where they want to learn? And if so, students will have, with all of these aspects, motivation to learn. Another kind of hand in hand with this, I would say, is stating expectations. So something I've seen, kind of tying in ideas I've seen from practicum and other research, is like a way of presenting objectives to students. The specific one I'm focusing on is for like major topics of the day. So with different subjects, they have like an overlying topic. Today I will, and it's basically like be doing this. And then it says so that I can, and it's filled in with why they're doing it and how they'll know when they've achieved this. So they will say, I will know I've got it when. Students in my practicum placement have unit progress books which they fill in. So throughout the unit, based on assessments like pre-formative, summative, they fill in their progress, and it's judgment off of their own self, so how they're feeling at the beginning as to how they're doing. Like, do they feel like they kind of understand what they're talking about, or do they have more improvement? They might fill it up. It's essentially a bar graph, but up to the highest level is 4. Anyway, it's a good way of measuring student progress and making them feel like really responsible yet valued in the classroom and in their learning. So, then also, I'm including Class Dojo, which I've also seen in my practicum, and it's an online software that is just like a way of getting students motivated. Here's an example of what Dojo looks like. It's really fun. Each student is represented by a little monster, and they can earn points, and they're separated in, and they can be separated into clans, so it's kind of like teamwork, whoever's in their group. Recently, my CT has been keeping names of groups and not like names of members of groups anonymous, or clans as she calls them, so that students won't do certain things to try and get certain students either more points because they're in their group or less points because they aren't. For example, kindness slips, which you'll hear about soon, tie into dojo. maybe there'd be some tattling involved. There's several ways that you can earn dojo, though. It ties into homework, so who's turning in homework that week, and as well as behavior, many aspects, and they all kind of underline expectations. So next, I would like to focus on the physical environment. For this, I have included a screenshot of an example of a classroom architect design. So I found an example from the Classroom Architect website, which we used in our classroom management course. I think it's really important with designing this physical environment that you consider the three other aspects. So emotional, which is why I included a sort of closed off by shelves kind of safe spot where there's beanbag chairs and a couch, sofas. It's closed off, it's quiet, nice place where students can kind of go and escape and feel safe and more familiar than the rest of the classroom, really. It's more homey to them. And then students are seated in a way that is collaborative and encourages social, emotional learning and development, supports all the aspects. So they can share ideas, work together, or work on their own when necessary. There's enough room at each group. I just thought this was a great example because at each table group there's enough room for each student to have to themselves, but there's also not too much room, so they are able to still collaborate when appropriate. So to promote the social aspect of the classroom environment, I have shared here basically the biggest factor is collaboration, so students working together, bringing all their ideas together is nice, simple. And then, as I mentioned, kindness reporter slips. So my CT calls them kindness slips. I thought it'd be fun, kind of like tying in with an activity I've seen in the past where students are reporters, but here they're reporting kindness that they saw, so they're called kindness reporters. Anyway, students, if they see a random act of kindness or if someone was especially kind to them, noticeably, then they get to fill out a kindness slip and say what this person did that was so special and identify the student. So my teacher, like I mentioned, does tie this into class dojo, and she also is pretty clear on stating like when kindness slips are like applicable, when they should be, I guess, used. So in order to in order to keep students from just filling out anything and everything, they just to earn points for their group, they have more, like, there's bigger expectations for a kindness slip. So the bar is pretty high, and it's not noticing what's expected, it's more noticing what's like above and what that person did to do above and beyond the guidelines, the expectations. I also included student sit spots, so spots around the room where students get to pick. They can be close to a friend or a peer, and in these times there's designated times where students are allowed to go, get up, and move and sit in their sit spots. It might be on the floor, it might be at another student's desk or at a group desk, but anyway, this is always exciting and it allows for collaboration, and in order to be in these spots, your behavior obviously has to be, well, you have to be on task, so I would say it promotes positive behavior and positive relationships with peers and teachers. I also mentioned a move up, move down, wow type of board, as this is another form of positive peer relationships and positive behavior. To promote emotional support in the classroom, I would like to focus in on parents and teachers as a partnership. So as an educator, I recognize that parents are like the primary #1 role in students' education, in their children's education. I recognize that parents and families come from very diverse backgrounds, very different situations. They have very clear wants and needs for their children and of their children. And as a teacher, I must value this, and I must have a very open, understanding, and accepting environment for both my students and my parents. The students in my classroom at the beginning of the year will design a classroom constitution. This will be totally ideas from their own, but promoted and kind of encouraged, I guess, by me as the educator. But they get to vote on which ideas they would like to include, and if they ever decide throughout the year that something needs to either be added, modified, or changed, they can kind of host like an election mock trial as well. So like a student congress to modify the Constitution. This way it's not just something that's hanging on the wall or even on the classroom website. It's and is forgotten about. It's a constant reminder when every so often I would implement this sort of election and ruling of the Constitution, especially if on an off week maybe or off month, definitely towards the end of the year when things start getting a little hectic and ready for summer crazy. Anyway, and then I would also like to support the idea of empathy rather than sympathy. Sympathy is just feeling sorry. Empathy is really like being able to get on the level of another person or my students and their families. Rather than just feeling sorry, I actually am able to walk around and look into how it feels more, understand better. It's a deeper emotional connection, which I think is really important for any educator to really ever understand their students. For students and educator relationships are essentially a family. Lastly, and definitely most importantly in my opinion, I promote equity over equality. I promote this idea, for I have a strong opinion and passion for supporting every student in a diverse classroom, students of very different needs and very different levels. Wherever they come from when they enter, they'll be given, or they'll be, I guess, supported with all the needs and demands that they require to succeed. So this is a great example of how I would support. This is a great example of equity versus equality. So in this first picture you see 3 boys, very different heights, all standing on the same sized box to watch a baseball game. Clearly it's a little unfair, but equality is providing sameness, equity is providing fairness. So giving access to the same opportunities. So here you see, obviously one of the smaller children was given 2 boxes, while the bigger child wasn't given any, because where he came in was at a completely different level than the smaller child. So it's giving everyone the same opportunities by modifying and applying necessary access, giving access to students. Sorry, really hard to. Providing access for all my students is how I will do so. Never promote equality until equity is achieved. Okay, well, that is all. Sorry for the rants, and I hope that some of these ideas have been helpful to any of my listeners and viewers. I hope that this will serve as a good tool for myself as well, and I can actually, in a real classroom, apply these practices. I've seen them work in the past, and especially in my practicum, more than anywhere else. And it's backed up by research from our book, so hopefully with enough effort and enough time,